Fired for being too fat. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. I want to talk about this article sent to me by a viewer. Man fired by the Big Four Stranahan for being too fat urges others to know their rights. Okay, before we go through this article, I've noticed that he's got a son about the same age as my eldest child. So I would imagine he's around my age, maybe got a few years on me. But the kilos start to pile on, guys. For all of you, those of you 30 and under, in your 20s, it gets harder the older you get. Not just the hangovers, but your body. It can't, you put on the weight. You get the dad bod. You get the double chin. You start to pack on the kilos. And the solution is, I would say, not to know your rights. If someone's saying you're too fat for a job, I would say, okay, well, yeah, you're probably right. I am too fat for the job. I'm probably too fat to avoid the risk of metabolic syndrome and diabetes later in life, because that's a key marker. And also, if you're overweight, it increases. It's the biggest comorbidity for COVID. Everyone, don't forget that. I know the government's never said that, but it's probably because they wouldn't even be able to tell people how to lose weight now properly. Anyway, I'm going to draw you to this article, or not this article, this website, Low Carb Down Under. Click on the resources, go to videos, and just binge watch all of these videos from doctors all around the world that have been using low carb, some carnivore, a whole range of diets to treat their patients, to cure them the diabetes, to get them off medicine. The old theories that we have for dietary health, once you start to look at the methodology used to develop the studies, surveys. They're asking you, what did you eat in 6 months' time? Fill out a survey. There we go. That's the evidence. It's shit evidence, but it's all they have. Then they jump to conclusions from that rather than actually doing research or real research. But this is some accounts from doctors, and I would encourage you to look at this, because this is a way that I and many people I know have successfully lost weight. Okay? And if you're a dad, you want to be around for your kids, you don't go... you don't bitch and moan about, oh no, they discriminated against me because they said I was too fat. You man up and say, okay, yeah, I am too fat. I got to sort it. How do you think I lost weight, guys? And I still have to lose weight. Well, every time we have a baby, we pack on the kilos because the sugar gets in and the rubbish gets in, but still. So they left Queensland and drove more than 3,000 kilometers to their new home in Tasmania over the Christmas holidays. Okay. But suitcases had barely been unzipped before the family were told to pack up and leave. After just 2 hours into their new roles as managers of the Big Four Stranahan holiday retreat, Hamish and Hazel Griffin were fired. Well, maybe you got to interview people. You've got to interview people in person before you see that. Well, let's keep going. Now, Mr. Griffin, who manages a caravan park in Cloncurry in northwest Queensland, or who managed a caravan park in northwest Queensland prior to the move, believes the decision violated his human rights. He urged others to do their homework before taking up a new job. Well, we're in a world now where we have vaccine mandates. That's been deemed appropriate by the government and by businesses. Why can't we do this? This is a health risk. If someone's overweight, they could risk, they could have a heart attack, they could have cardiac arrest, they could have other issues. They could be driving a vehicle and injure your guests at the venue. While helping to move a sofa from a shed at the park, Mr. Griffin said he was told his weight would prevent him from being able to carry out his duties. I was told I couldn't do the job because I was too fat. I was told I wouldn't be able to push a lawnmower or climb a ladder, he said. I've been a park manager in northwest Queensland for 8 years. I've been doing the job for 8 years. Mr. Griffin said that, while he understood there would be a need to undertake such tasks every now and then, he was not being employed as a groundskeeper or maintenance operator. I was in a management position, he said. Well, okay, that's one solution, saying, okay, I'll lose weight. There's another. Sure, you have urgent situations where you might be short-staffed, or you might have to go and give someone a hand, which is what I've been doing for the last 8 years on a bigger property in harsher conditions. What shocked Mr. Griffin was that he had conducted video interviews and sent photos of himself and his family to the employers. that sent me, or that see me, they knew what I looked like, he said. Yeah, but it's different when you see someone on a screen to when you actually see them in person. I mean, he's lost weight now, hasn't he? Yeah, there you go. Park owners told the ABC that his sacking was due to a workplace health and safety issue, and there were concerns Mr. Griffin would harm himself while working in the park. They said Mr. Griffin had withheld a health condition from employers. Why should I tell them? Carrying a few extra kilos, in my mind, is not going to inhibit me and hasn't inhibited me for the last 8 years to carry out my duties as a manager of a park. But you know what the problem is? We're in such a bloody nanny state country. If you were to injure yourself because you're overweight at work, maybe they didn't provide you a bariatric chair for you to sit on and it broke and you injured yourself, who do you think would be liable? Who do you think would be liable? Who do you think would be suing? Real quick. I'll have a coffee, you tell me. So, the family who had spent one night in their new house packed up their car and left. It was just such a shock the evening before. The boss and his wife had visited us and welcomed us with a bottle of wine. That morning my son had been playing by the stream, Mr. Griffin said. We were basking in this paradise that was going to be our new home, and now I had to think about where I was going to sleep that night. This was not just the new job we'd lost. This was the loss of a new life. We'd moved for a new life. Yeah, that's kind of sad. He said the hardest part was telling his son Freddie. The look on the little boy's face, who was hunting for platypus in the stream, when I told him to get back in the car, and the look on my wife's face, I wish the park owners, could have felt what I felt that moment. He'd ripped my life apart, he'd ripped my heart out. I've lived out in Queensland West most of my life. I've worked in Afghanistan, I've travelled the world, I've raised a family, but this has absolutely floored me. You know, that's probably the issue. These people, when you live out in the middle of nowhere, you can't get good food. Often you get a whole lot of processed crap because it's what can be transported out there. You'd think they'd be eating all this healthy food unless you get something butchered locally, but a lot of the time it's just garbage, seed oil-filled rubbish. I remember that visiting some family out on the farm, and I thought, you're eating worse than we do in the city, and we've got horrible diets. This is back in the day. So employee rights. Mr. Griffin is seeking legal advice to investigate whether there were any breaches of contract and further any breaches of Discrimination Acts or the Australian Human Rights Commission Act of 1986. NB Lawyers Director Jonathan Mamaril said while there were no laws in Australia that prevented employers from sacking an employee for being fat or overweight, there were grounds to fight discrimination based on a physical impairment or a medical condition. In this matter, the employers made the point that this is potentially a medical condition. The problem with that type of comment is that it's a perception, and just the mere perception is simply not good enough. You need actual medical evidence to back that up. For the role of a manager, it's going to be very difficult for the employer to say that a person carrying a bit of extra weight is going to cause a health and safety risk. So, warning to others. While Mr. Griffin believed there was nothing he could have done to change the outcome, he urged others to be diligent and do their homework while considering new employment. I just don't want this to happen to anyone else, he said. I think they'd already made their mind up. They saw him. The guy was probably struggling to move a couch, or was probably just sweating a bit and panting a bit, and they thought, yeah, this isn't going to work. I can see both sides of this. I can see where Griffin is frustrated, but I can also see where the business owners just see this as being a disaster. There was nothing really that I think I could have asked or done better. Well, you could have. Did he offer to lose weight? Say, don't worry, I'll go on a diet. Give me 3 months. Give me 3 months. We'll make it happen. I mean, wouldn't that be reasonable? If they got you to fly out here, maybe it was something else. Or is that just too old-fashioned to think like that, guys? Am I showing my boomer lineage at the moment? But in terms of advice for anyone else, all I would say is please just do your homework, do as much research as you can on the company and your rights. Yeah, but you're never going to want to work there again. That's the thing. That's a move. That's a big move. That's a mission. That's an adventure, particularly with everything that's going on. But then again, we did this move from Melbourne to Gold Coast. So better climate. What do you reckon, guys? Let's have a talk about this one. So who's in the right? The worker or the business owner? Yeah, they've got other things we can refuse people access to. Here's the thing. If you want to get rid of the mandates, just allow businesses to discriminate on anything as they see fit from employers. Make it easier to hire and fire. Then you'll have more people employed. Sure, you'll have a bit more churn. Sure, you'll have a bit more whingers. But the market will sort it out, guys. I just don't think we have the stomach for it. I think to the father of 8, mate, go low carb down under. Lose the kilos. See it as a wake-up call. You don't want to have a heart attack in 10 years' time because you're overweight. You don't want to get diabetes because you're overweight. Sort it out. Or do we not? Can we not think like that anymore, guys? Anyway, check out this video about our keto journey where I share our first steps into this, change into your entire lifestyle. A lot of it is eating clean too, avoiding all the processed stuff, avoiding all the sugar and hidden things. It's tougher than you think. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.